Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. 9 o'clock here. Oh, wonderfully, I don't know about in your part of the world, dreary Thursday, I would describe it here. The Will Marotti Show, your host, common sense evangelist, Will Marotti. And wow, the time's flying by, summer's flying by. We're clicking off days away from the election. I've got some encouraging news. I know everybody's panicking. Oh my gosh, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and look at the polls. And well, there's good news. Let not your heart be troubled. It's Thursday, which means it's Jazz Day here. Jazz Shaw, weekend editor, hotair.com, is our guest, and we're excited to have Jazz back. We have a DA at the control panel today. AT overseeing, managing the quality, and our crack researcher LJ. Let me just start with this because I'm reading so much panic. Oh my gosh, what is going on? The Democrats are just surge. I've got two things I want to share about that. But first of all, this is from Real Clear Politics, which again is just an aggregate site. It takes all the surveys, all the things, adds them together, averages them out, shows you what they're in. This is Real Clear Politics as of today. If the election were held today, yes, it's possible. Some polls are showing Kamala Harris up by a point and a half over Trump. Other polls, Trump is ahead. But the popular vote isn't what we're concerned about. The popular vote is important, but it's the Electoral College that selects the president. And so this is today. If the election was held today, battleground states, some would call them toss-ups, I don't know, but battleground states, here they are. And let me go through the list. Arizona, as of today, if the election were held today, Trump is up 2.8 in Arizona. Nevada, if it was held today, 4 points ahead. Wisconsin, not a big surprise. Harris is up 0.5%. Michigan, not a surprise. Harris is up 2%. Pennsylvania, if it was held today, Trump is up 1.8%. North Carolina, if it was held today, Trump is up 3%. And Georgia, if the election were held today, Trump is up almost a 0.8, almost a percentage point. So Trump is in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 battleground states. Trump is up in 5, which means Trump wins the Electoral College, which means Trump wins the presidency and will be the next president of the United States. I think a lot of this, again, you went from the Walking Dead Joe Biden candidate who couldn't walk, talk at the same time, couldn't walk, tripping, falling over himself, just blabbing out things that made no sense at all. You went from that to Kamala, who can walk and talk at the same time, does a great job, almost better in some sense than Joe Biden in terms of word salad. And so, yes, there's a lot of excitement. And the progressives are crazy because they love, the ultra-left people love Tim Walz. Tim Walz, let me remind you about Tim Walz here for a moment. You know what I'm going to do? I want to pray first because I want to make sure everything I say is accurate and fair. So let's pray first, shall we? Heavenly Father, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we thank you for another day of life, another day to enjoy the beautiful creation you've made for us, not only enjoy, but to take care of, to steward it. Thank you for all of the many blessings, family, friends, jobs, cars, food, clothing, homes to live in, places to be. Thank you, God. Thank you for your love, your grace, your mercy, your patience, most of all, and most importantly, your forgiveness, because with that we get a new beginning and a fresh start. Thank you for the promise of a home in heaven with you forever. God, we're grateful. We're grateful to live in this country, still the best country, greatest country in the history of humanity. albeit divided, under attack, problems in, problems out, facing a lot of challenges right now, but still a great place to live, and we're thankful for it. We're grateful for all the men and women who serve in our military, voluntarily serve in our military. And we thank you for their families. We pray for comfort for them, safety for the folks that are serving. Thank you for all of our veterans who have already served, and bless them and their families. Of course, our first responders, so important, law enforcement, Border Patrol, firefighters. Gosh, help them, Lord. It's a dangerous world to live in, and a big problem for a lot of folks. So help them. Thank you for this audience, growing, wonderful. We love them. Bless them today. Bless them with health, strength, clarity, reconciliation where they're having relational issues, finance problems, perhaps. Give them some resource. Let them know that you're present and you see and you hear and you answer their prayers. And thank you. Thank you for all the help that we get putting this together. Thank you for the privilege of being on. We pray you bless us today. Help us to honor you, expand our reach and our influence. That's why we're here. That's why we do it. And we thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. We certainly don't do it for the money, right, boys? It's hard. I'll tell you, it's hard getting a new show off the ground. Even if you consider, years I had in radio, but not being able to access that audience easily. And so it's all word of mouth, and it's social media, it's things like that. But we've got a good start. We're very happy, very thankful. So if the election were held today, according to Real Clear Politics, Trump wins 5 of the 7 battleground states. Most importantly, Pennsylvania. Trump wins the election today if it's held today. He might lose the popular vote by a point and a half, but that's not how the country runs. Now, let me just remind you of the positions that Tim Walz, VP candidate for Kamala Harris, takes. 7, right? He's all in favor of pediatric medical mutilation, which means to say he's turned Minnesota into a transgender sanctuary state. He's all for gender-affirming care and surgical procedures. So let's say a child runs away from Connecticut and goes to Minnesota because they want transgender-affirming care. Minnesota will not return the child. Underage, minor. They're there. They're safe. It's like a church during the war. You can run to a church. Well, probably not anymore, but you can run to a church and it was a sanctuary, right? No. Minnesota will not return your child to you, even if they're a minor. Okay. Tim Walz, total socialist, complete Marxist, hides it well, but he said this last week at a fundraiser. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. He said that. I didn't say that. He said that. So don't ever shy away from our progressive values. Progressive automatically goes right to means, AKA socialism, Marxism, not how this country was founded. Let's look back at history. Peaceful summer of 2020, the BLM riots. He waited for days to call out the National Guard, and Minneapolis was burning to the ground. He, along with Kamala, helped raise money to get arrested BLM members out of jail through the Minnesota Freedom Fund. No question about it. Can't hide, can't run. It's the truth. He was a total COVID-19 fanatic, vaccine person, lockdowns. It was amazing. He's a complete supporter of illegal immigration. An estimated 40,000 illegals are residing in Minnesota, thanks to Governor Walz. Totally for abortion. No limit. No limit to abortion at all, right up to the time of birth. That's his position. And he's a climate extremist. He passed a framework called the Minnesota Climate Action, 69 pages detailing 100% carbon-free electricity in Minnesota. No cars, no trucks, no anything, no oil, no coal burning plants. 100% electric in Minnesota by 2040. Not going to happen. So this is his history. This is who he is. It makes a very clear contrast between the absolute fanaticism and radical agenda of the Harris Biden administration. Now it'll be the Harris Walsh. Couldn't be a clearer contrast. Couldn't be more black and white than it is. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that she picked him. I'm thankful. Now we have here from a study from Pew Research on inflation. And CPI consumer price index in June 24 was just 3 points. Oh, if inflation's slowing down. Well, you have to look at the cumulative inflation since 2020. And the cumulative inflation in June 2024 was 21.8%. Some things are way over that number. For instance, here's a couple. Margarine. Now, I don't like margarine. I like butter. I'm a butter person, but a lot of people use, a lot of restaurants use margarine. Margarine is 56.8% more than it was in January 2020. Mm-hmm. Men's suits, sports coats, outerwear took a little bit of a dip, 6%. However, look at this. Motor vehicle repair services. Got to get your car fixed? Up 47%. Insurance costs. I've seen this in our house insurance. Holy cow. We just had to renew our church insurance. Massive policy, 56 acres, 64,000 square feet of building space, plus liability for church, our school, our daycare, our camp, our food pantry. Unbelievable increase in price for insurance. Insurance costs since 2020 are up 47%. Do you have pets? We do. 2 beagles. Very frustrating animals. Ann loves them, so they'll never go anywhere. I, on the other hand, would love to set them free and give them their shot with the coyotes around our house. But it's veterinarian services are up 35%. Oh, the Biden economy is just so strong. It's so good for middle Americans. And this is what Harris Walsh will bring, this great economy. In 2007, an Apple phone cost, wait for it, $499. If you just went in and bought them, forget plan discounts, all that. Right now, average price, $799. Smartphones have gone up 53% from January 2020 to 2024. The only thing smart about that is the people making them. It's just crazy. The economy, and I don't care what the stock, well, of course, the stock market isn't great. Stock market's going through some tremors right now. Gasoline. How about that? How about gasoline? You got to drive your car, right? Until we get all electric cars, you got to drive your car. Gasoline up 35.9% higher in June of 2024 than it was in January 2020. Wow. Well, that's what's happening in the economy. And you cannot have a good economy if average people can't afford to buy things. Eggs, I think that eggs were up like 94%. We talked about this in church Sunday. A dozen eggs in 1970. Guess what they cost? Come on, somebody jump in there. Good morning, Perry. Good morning, Lori. Priscilla. Luke, good morning. Poor pups. Yeah, I am not. I love the dogs. Don't get me wrong. My bark is worse than my bite. No pun intended. Well, actually, a pun intended. Dozen eggs in 1970. How much? Don't look it up. Give me the answer. Barry, good morning. Ice Rocket, good morning. I know a lot of people are asking for a longer show. We're just not ready yet. Luke says 50 cents. Close, 50 cents. Luke says 50 cents. 59 cents for a dozen eggs in 1970. What are they now? I don't know, $8, $9. Crazy. I should have paid attention. I had to buy some last night. Bought a dozen last night. I think they were almost $9. Oh, gosh. Unbelievable. But this is what we're dealing with. Now, I use several places I go for news every day. Hotair.com is the long standing one. Hey, you know what? Let's have we don't have the theme song ready yet, right? Okay, we're developing a new theme song for Kamala Harris, and hopefully we'll have that ready for you next week. But prior to that, and so every time you hear the theme song, you'll know a Kamala video is coming. And we have a Kamala video. Now, all the young people seem to be excited about Kamala. Kamala, 18 and 24-year-olds. Well, I wonder, what does Kamala Harris think of the younger generation, 18 to 24-year-olds? I think I'd like to hear her talk about it. Do we have that, Mr.? Let's go to the video.
What's the other thing we know about this population? And it's a specific phase of life. Remember, age is more than a chronological fact. What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant. They make really bad decisions.
Yeah, like voting for Kamala. What worst decision you can make? So Kamala thinks all 18 to 24-year-olds are stupid. They make really bad decisions. Oh, okay. Good. I know, we don't have a lot of 18 to 24s. We have some. What do you think of that? If you're 18 to 24, drop in a comment. What do you think of that? You're stupid. I happen to think that's an incredibly important generation. In fact, here at our church, New Life Church, we're younging down to leadership. We're intentionally putting younger people in positions of leadership. I myself personally was 23 years old when I helped start a church that's still active today, flourishing today, 40 some odd years later. And the oldest person on the leadership team of that church, that new church plant, was like 26 years old. So the whole church was started with a leadership team under 26 years old, except for one family where the folks were older. But I mean, I think 18 to 24. I mean, gosh, race car athletes, race car drivers, 18, 24, prime. Kamala thinks you're stupid. Yes, I know. Here's a good. I don't know. It's a good story. It's an encouraging story. All right. So all the free money is gone. Remember 2 or 3 years ago, people had money in their pockets. They were walking around with thousands of dollars. Why? Because the government gave them free money. And COVID was reigning supreme. At least we were told that. And states were showing these massive surpluses. Well, some states, according to this article, some states are starting to rein in spending. Why? Because revenue is slowing. Here in Connecticut, administration has been warning leaders for months. The next budget they draft will likely have some painful choices, as nearly $700 million in temporary COVID money disappears. The prospect of holding the spending line and shrinking areas has worried many legislators. Whether Connecticut will follow the example next spring remains uncertain. Pew analyst Liz Farmer says states' general funds, which cover the bulk of annual operating costs, will likely drop 6.2% on average across the country beginning in July 1 of next year. So you've got states that have, Connecticut has some crazy rainy day fund right now. I mean, it's over what's supposed to be the cap of the rainy day fund. I think I read $4.9 billion. That's all free government, not free. It's your tax dollars. It's all government money. And states, not just Connecticut, many states across the country looking to shore up things. And it's funny that this was said here. I think it was said by Governor Lamont. I think the warning was given to never count on temporary monies for programs. Count on them only for single expenditures. And we lived that way for years. We don't. If we get a surplus, somebody gives us a big gift. You don't count on that as your budget now. You save, you buy, you make repairs of things that you have to do, but you don't count on big gifts coming in as a regular part of your budget, unless they're going to be reoccurring big gifts every year. And Lamont warned of this, but this is why we're laying off so many teachers in Connecticut, because education departments all over the state, every municipality, oh, we got all this extra money now, and now the money's drying up, and all these teachers have to be laid off. It's sad. So, I guess I don't know if that's good. It's not good news, because obviously you don't want people losing their jobs. Obviously you don't want programs cutting or suspending, but at least they're understanding they can't spend money they don't have. And so there's some restraint being showed. I don't. Here's something that appeared in reason.com. So let me get back to that. So the number of places that I look every day for news: hotair.com, Daily Signal, Wall Street Journal. Reason is a libertarian site, but I like some of their reporting. I'm not libertarian per se. I guess as I get older, I don't know about you, I'm interested. Hi, Lloyd. How are you? Let's see. Well, that's just a foolish statement. I don't know what, people who are anti-Semitic are just horses behinds. I don't even know how to say it. Because, and particularly if you're a Christian, because if it wasn't for Judaism, there'd be no Christianity. And I tell people all the time, my boss is a Jew. And they go, what are you talking about? I go, Jesus. Jesus is a Jew. So I don't know what stimulates that anti-Semitic remark, but you are horses behind. Tracy, let's see. EP funding. I know, I'm so genteel. Your horse is behind. I would have said something else, but I am a pastor. Yeah, right. Eric says, plant the seeds to grow the next crop of leaders. That's why we're intentionally doing that here at New Life Church. We've younged down our staff. We've younged down a lot of the leadership volunteers. Let's see. What do I think about Cori Bush? I don't think much about it. She's a raving lunatic. If you saw her, well, you couldn't call it a concession speech. If you saw her defeat speech, oh my gosh, she was threatening everybody except Lincoln. I mean, she was just insane. So no, I don't know that it means anything. I think the people of Missouri realize that Cori Bush is a lunatic. Now, if they can figure that out about Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, they figured that out about Jamal, what's his name, Bowman. He got kicked out. AOC, she needs to go. But we'll take what we can get. We'll be happy about it. Good morning. Yes, good morning, everybody. Yes. Kids are not, no, you're right, Lori. Kids are not walking. Not all kids are walking zombies. Some are. Some are, but it's always been true. You've always had a percentage of kids growing up that are walking zombies. It's always true. It's always true. So we don't know. We don't believe that at all. All right. I don't know who this guy is. This guy is like, how do you people even get to watch us? I don't even know. I mean, he's just clearly mentally unstable. Are you off your meds, Loy? Have you stopped taking your medication? Because there's a problem. There's a problem. And if you're not on medication, you probably should go see a doctor. Get some help for that. Counselors will help that. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Let's see. So this from reason.com. This is from reason.com. The squad, bingo. Yeah, squad. We love. Get rid of the squad. Good morning from Manchester. Good morning, everybody. Wow, got a big crowd this morning, huh, Alex? Good, nice number. Okay, this is from reason.com. Kamala Harris is running on freedom. Does she mean more than just abortion? With 100 days left before the 2024 election, the Democratic ticket has pivoted hard in the direction of freedom. How serious are they really? Within 48 hours of Biden ending his career campaign, Vice President Harris locked up enough delegates to secure the nomination. That's interesting, isn't it? That does not hardly seem like a Democratic move on the Democrat Party. It seems like a backdoor socialist Marxist move, but that's okay. If you want to pretend you're living in democracy and you're a Democrat Party, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Makes you feel good. And so some of us are old enough to remember when Republicans were talking about freedom. As it now turns out, what they meant, the government should be free to invade the doctor's office. This is Tim Walz. In Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and the personal choices they make, even if the choices they make aren't the ones we'd make for ourselves. And then there's Eric Waltz, his new battle cry. This just was the other day in Michigan. His new battle cry is what? Mind your own damn business. This is your vice presidential candidate, Democrats. So that's the new battle cry for the Democrat Party. Who was that guy a few years ago? It was so funny. The rent's too high. Remember that guy? He was, I think he was a counselor in New York City councilor. The rent's too high. Eric Waltz, mind your own business. I love it. Oh gosh. So what does freedom mean to Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party? Freedom. What is this freedom? Freedom not to just get by. Freedom to be safe from gun violence. Yeah. Freedom to make decisions about your own body. Yeah. This is the same old stuff. It's just the same playbook, just repackaged. That's all this is. And so freedom to take your guns away. Yeah. That's good. We like it. Now, this was also in, I saw this in Real Clear Politics. Sean at 9:35, and we've got a lot to talk about with Jazz. And this is what the question that has to be asked and answered, and I'm going to answer it and say yes. There are conventions coming up, Democrat conventions coming up, which I can't wait to see. I hope there are thousands of pro-Hamas protesters out in force in Chicago for the Democrat convention. Can't wait. Popcorn, everything. It's going to be wonderful. Let's see. Presidential election may turn on whether or not Kamala Harris is closer to her peak or her rise has just only begun. And that's the question. All of the enthusiasm, all the excitement for this poor woman who can hardly put together a cohesive paragraph, whose greatest claim to fame is falling out of a coconut tree, she's got a great laugh, right? We see her laughing all the time. That's fine. Everybody's excited about it. But is the excitement peaking? And now a little bit of a bump with Mr. Waltz coming in. Is the excitement peaking? I think it is. Well, there's external signs that could nudge the race in the other direction. Harris is about to announce a running mate. Already happened. Democrats will soon gather for their convention in Chicago. At the same time, there are economic warning signs that could put focus back on the issue that Trump still leads by double digits almost everywhere, which is the economy. Who's going to do a better job of the economy? Trump, Harris. 10 points minimum, 12 on average. Trump does a better job. Now we're talking about wars. Rumors of wars, Iran, Israel, 20% average inflation, 90% inflation on eggs. I mean, all the things that people are concerned about, Harris doesn't make that. In fact, Harris is responsible. The Harris-Biden administration is responsible for the pain that we're feeling now. So there's two ways to look at the race. One is that weeks of euphoric coverage and renewed Democrat energy has effectively settled into a tie with Trump. The other is that Harris has managed to do a little over in 2 weeks what Biden was able to do in months. The honeymoon could last long enough to see her through the election. I say no. And here's the indicator. This is the big one. The first debate. When she debates Donald Trump, her campaign is over. She will be body slammed like Tulsi Gabbard gave her. I think more Americans are going to wake up to this charade, to recognize that the problems they're dealing with now are problems that were caused by the Harris-Biden administration. All right, we're going to take a quick break, 3 minutes, and then we will be back with Jazz Shaw, weekend editor, hotair.com. Can't wait to welcome Jazz back. We got a lot to talk about. And, yeah, well, I think so. I don't think being president is a laughable position, Kamala. All right, hey, 3 minutes. Don't go away. Call your friends, neighbors. relatives, associates, and tell them that Jazz Shaw's coming up next on the Will Marotti Show. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry, lost out in the music there a little bit. Yes, God help us in the coming election. Kevin, thank you. Also, God help us with ponies. Kevin, any word with ponies? You'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, hey, we are so glad Thursday's Jazz Day, as it's been many years, and returning back into action today. We're so happy to have the weekend editor, hotair.com, and that is the one and only Jazz Shaw. Jazz, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
Thank you. Sorry to have missed a week, but it was unavoidable. I'm doing good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out what news to not talk about. There's just so much going on. Let's start with a story. Let's start with a story, because you and I, we both love space travel. If you had a chance to go in space, would you do it now?
Not at this stage of my life. No, I couldn't handle
No.
it.
I think I would.
If
I
I'd
still
if I'd
would.
gotten the offer before I was 40, I would have done it.
Yeah,
But in my 60s, I
yeah.
just, you know.
It's a lot of work. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I don't need it to be possible. I might be a few pounds over. Just wouldn't be able to do. But anyway, speaking of space, so a couple months ago, Boeing, and of course, how could things get worse for Boeing? Boeing sends up their first manned capsule, the Starliner, and apparently they knew that there were some problems with the craft as it was taking off, or maybe before the takeoff. They were supposed to
Before
be up there, I think, what was it, 2 weeks originally?
8 days.
8 days. Okay. And now they went up there for 2 months plus. Now I saw something yesterday that said they don't even know if they can get the capsule to safely undock from the space station. But it gets worse, right? There's more problems. So what are they facing now?
Yeah, it grows more and more complicated. They did take off with a helium leak.
Yep.
Somebody failed to test the thrusters properly, and a bunch of those failed. But they still managed to get it hooked up. But we only learned way after the fact that they had done a software update to the software that handles the docking procedure and the undocking procedure. And when they tried to do a static fire test up there and get prepared to make their attempt to come back and bring the astronauts back, the software failed. They
Yeah.
can't undock at this point. They don't have the ability to break it free. That's bad enough. But the crippled Starliner is taking up the only port on the ISS that Elon Musk Dragon can use. So unless they can kick that thing out of the way, Musk is ready to go. He's Boeing's kind of fibbing, and NASA is in that press release they sent out
He
saying
couldn't be ready for some
he
months,
wouldn't
I
be
think.
ready until February. But the truth is, and Musk pointed it out on social media, um, the February date is the date when his next crewed mission was supposed to go,
Oh,
and he
okay.
was getting one ready for that. But he's got another Dragon, and they were ready to put 2 people on board instead of 4 people
Right.
and
So
throw
they'd
some
have
spacesuits
right.
in, and he could be going up there this month, and figuring out a way to go in and have them change their spacesuits and come out, and he'd bring them back. But he
Wow.
he he can't attach the Dragon
Nowhere
until
to
they
attach
find a
to.
way to get the Starliner out of the way.
So can they spacewalk them out into the into the
I
drag?
was I was wondering about that. They got a big arm on the space
Yeah,
station that
yeah.
goes out.
Grab
Maybe they
the
could use
dragon.
that and get a
Yeah.
hold of the Dragon and then walk the astronauts across the arm and maybe get them in. But then you got to open the Dragon up to let them get in when it's in space,
Right. Exactly.
and that's going to be tricky, right?
So I mean, so the other day, I've got a Ford Edge, and I'm backing up, and the camera wasn't working. It was showing a picture, but there was no motion. I said, all right, whatever. And I drive, and I noticed that the camera's staying on, but not my little communication screen on my dashboard. So I'm like, what the heck is this? So I stop the car and turn everything off. I restart the car. Same thing, messed up. Then it goes dark. And I go, come on. So I shift the car and park a couple times, be in and out to see what happens. And then I get a message that it's updating for maintenance. So I didn't ask him to update it. I didn't do anything, but somewhere in the stratosphere, the satellite, who knows where it is, it's getting a signal, and it went on for like 5 minutes. So I said, you know what? I'm not waiting here. I had to go to the office. I turned it off. I went back on. Everything's perfect. So apparently, whatever maintenance the sync had to do, and I'm sure it was satellite driven, right? I don't think, how else could it do it? It must have been GPS or something related. I mean, it's the whole function. It's the stereo, it's the sound system, it's the GPS, it's climate control, it's everything that's resident within this touchscreen. So
Satellite or cell tower, but even the cell tower stuff relies on satellites at some
right.
stages.
So
So
why can't they do that with the hatch? Why can't I don't
maybe
know
they
what?
can. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
That's way beyond my level of expertise. I hope they figure something out
I mean,
because
maybe the Dragon can bring the program, and they can go Dragon to Starliner communicate. I don't know. Anyway, what a mess, huh? And poor and I feel bad for Boeing. Here's this legacy company that has done so much in the world of airline travel, and now they've got this problem with. And who's going to go with them for the second flight? I'm sure not. So
Yeah, I was following up on something that my colleague David Strom had written, and I
yeah,
have to agree with them at this point. Boeing shouldn't be allowed near anything to do with the space station or space
no,
or NASA
no,
until at least until they can get their planes
planes work.
able to go off the ground without the wheels falling off.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally, you know.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to get your take on this yet. Kamala Harris's announcement of Tim Walz as VP. How did that strike you?
Curious. I understand. I think from their perspective why. They had shortened the list down in what I found a curious way, but they couldn't go with the governor of Pennsylvania, who would have been a much stronger choice, because he's Jewish, and you can't have that in the Democratic Party these
Mm-hmm.
days.
Yeah.
And they were also considering what's his name, Scott, the astronaut from Arizona, who's the
Mark.
Senate.
Mark.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and and he's a he's a national hero. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that good things to say about him. Certainly, I mean, he's a Democrat, and I'm sure we don't disagree on much, but he doesn't really do anything for her.
Yeah.
So Tim
Yeah.
Walz,
But what does Waltz do for her? I mean,
anti-Israel. He's from a
yeah.
state that she desperately needs to carry, and she's already ticked off all the pro-Hamas people enough. And if they took somebody like the Pennsylvania governor, would just tick them off more, and they're worried they're going to stay home.
Mark
So I,
Kelly. Mark
yeah,
Kelly is
Mark
the.
Kelly. There you go.
Well, but again, I mean, what's Waltz going to do as far as I just did Real Clear Politics, which is an aggregate site. It just takes other polls, compiles them, gives you averages, right? If the election was held today, Trump leading in 5 of 7 battlegrounds, Pennsylvania being one of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're going to win Minnesota anyway. It's the only state they won in 84. It's the only state they won in 68, I think. Why not get somebody other than because he's a raving lunatic progressive person? Why not get somebody that can help you win the election?
Yeah,
Or
that
they
was
think he does.
kind of my question, but again, I think they're so myopic. They're just so focused on not losing his state that they're losing track of the bigger picture,
Yeah.
perhaps, and the
Hmm.
other states that he's not going to do a thing to carry anybody. You know,
I mean,
I think there were a lot better choices, frankly, but
I do too. But I mean, I'm happy about it. I'm not unhappy because I think it creates the greatest contrast between Trump, Vance, and Harris, Waltz. I mean, I think it's stark contrast. I think the choice people have to make are so abundantly clear which direction you're going to head. But I mean, look at what's happened in primaries. Jamal Bowman, a squad member in sense, he lost. He's out. Cori Bush just got her wagon rung in Missouri. I mean, that was a big upset, I guess.
yeah,
If the squad members are losing, what does that say nationally? Maybe there's less uh, intrigue with these people. Maybe there's less appetite for these extremely radical people.
the pro Hamas people represent a tiny
Yeah.
portion of the population, but they're being catered to by Biden and Harris. The other thing about Walls is it took no time at all for the opposition research to just light up on fire. There's
Hmm.
stuff coming out. They just lost probably all the veterans,
Yeah. Veteran groups are
but
coming out like crazy. You're right.
because they came up with a clip where Walls claimed to be a combat veteran, and he
Yeah.
served. God bless him.
Yeah.
He volunteered as a reservist, uh, but he was never in combat. You know,
No.
and we've had a big conversation over at our group in the background going on, and that just ticks everybody off. You can't go around saying you're a combat veteran if you never
Well,
served.
when his unit was being shipped to Iraq,
He bailed.
he bailed. So
Yeah.
I mean, now say what you want about Vance. Vance went. Vance served in Iraq. So I don't know. I mean, I hate to go after military stuff, particularly when it's trespassing on stolen valor, because that's such a big deal. Rightly
Yeah.
so.
It's not like I was going to vote for them anyway, but I
Yeah.
know we've discussed this before, but
Hmm.
my father won the Purple Heart in World War II. This stuff pisses me off.
Yeah. We just had, wasn't it just Purple Heart Day the other day when
Yeah.
they celebrate all the recipients? Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. What do you think about the attacks on Vance? I mean, the weird stuff. I mean, we're talking about people. If you looked at the Pride party at Washington D.C. at the White House on that Saturday in June when it was Pride Month, there are some pretty weird looking people over there. I mean, I don't know where
Oh
they get
yeah.
off calling Vance weird.
Yeah. Vance is. I will fully admit, in his short political career, he's not a career politician. He
Yeah.
came from a totally different background. This is, I correct me if I'm wrong. It's only his first term in the Senate,
Yes,
and
I think you're right.
he's not a career politician. He doesn't have the chops and the inherent senses of, oh, say this, but don't say this because that might sound off and be off putting
Hmm.
or anything.
Hmm.
He's never developed that. But then again, I think you're getting a much more raw, unfiltered message from Vance.
Hmm.
You're hearing what he thinks.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with that. But yeah, he's not a polished politician, and I don't know if that's a bad thing.
I don't think it is a bad thing at all. I actually have more comfort in that. What about the rumors floating around that Kamala is going to adopt the Biden basement policy for the campaign?
Still rumors, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm,
She hasn't had a press conference
mm-mm.
uh, since all
Yeah,
this started.
right.
But she has been doing events. She shows up and reads prepared scripts,
Mm,
um, which is very similar to Joe in some ways, but she's better at reading them and getting it off mostly. I don't know who's writing them for her because some of them still sound kind of dodgy, but I think she's going to have to start doing some press conferences
yeah.
eventually. I don't see how you avoid that, and so I don't think it's not going to be the same basement strategy. I think they're gonna keep her under wraps as much as they can get away with,
Hmm.
but there's a limit.
Does she do a debate with Trump?
Yeah,
You think she does? She
I think
has
she does.
to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're just throwing red meat to the lions if
Oh
she
my
if
goodness.
she already challenged him. She already said we're going to debate, and now and Trump's coming back and going, fine, let's rock. And if she turns around and runs away, then she's just turning the gun around in the wrong direction, pointing at herself.
Well, I mean, Trump already
You know.
accepted the Fox debate with an
Yep.
audience. She passed. So I don't know where that's going to go. She wants to do a CNN no audience debate. Um, I don't know.
There's
I
also
don't
talk of a CBS one, but that's not much difference. They're just as bad as CNN.
I
So
don't see how she holds up to Trump in a debate. I mean, I think it'd be worse than Hillary.
probably worse than Hillary, not as bad as Biden.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but that would be hard to top or go under, depending on how you want to phrase it.
I mean,
Uh, I, I think she'll be able to keep talking and provide answers to questions and maybe even try to get some attacks in against Trump. But she doesn't have much room to talk without leaving herself open to counterpoints. And is an awfully dangerous debater
mhm.
when he gets going. And he has no lack of energy. He can go for an hour and a half on the debate stage.
And we've seen that many times in speeches. I mean, but Trump's and this isn't fair, but it is what it is. You're not just running against a candidate. You're not just running against a party. You're running against the vast majority of the media in the United States, and you're
Hmm.
running against high tech. And to your point, you just wrote this a couple days ago. Google finally admitting the Trump assassination from the search feature. I mean, how bad can it get? This is like people saw it with their own eyes. I mean, it was on live TV. And um,
Uh, we
how do they explain this?
we should be careful and not cast too many stones necessarily at Google and Alphabet over that. I read their explanation. Yeah, at first glance, it looks really dodgy. It looks really dubious, and it did seem to be definitely more slanted against Trump and in
Mm-hmm.
favor of Harris. But at the same time, the type ahead feature, they haven't shown us the exact code, but it makes absolute sense. They're supposed to block any um, requests and feedback that involve physical violence, things like that, and any search that you're trying to put in a phrase talking about assassinating a president that's
Oh, okay.
implicitly related to violence, and
Okay.
they say their filter picked up on the word assassination tagged with either the office
Mhm.
or the
Mhm.
name of a potential candidate
Okay.
or
Okay.
think something like that. So that could have been it, you know.
I mean, that's feasible, I suppose. Yeah. All right. I'll give them that. That's
But
fine.
when it was just refusing to fill in President Donald, now that looks a lot worse.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the third choice was Donald Duck, and Donald Trump didn't show up on the list, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
that the assassination one I kind of get that one. No, I think that was somebody messing around.
What about didn't they just at least, I mean, they're going to appeal it obviously, but didn't they just have an antitrust loss with for
Yep.
search engine with them in YouTube, I guess?
Yeah.
Is that the connection there? I mean, that thing will be appealed. I heard it could be 4 or 5 years before it's settled, but not a good couple weeks for Google from that perspective.
No, it hasn't been. It's been bad PR for them up and down. But again, they hold such a monopoly, which is what the whole lawsuit is about. I'm not sure how much they care because there's some people that have moved over to like DuckDuckGo and
Mhm.
a few other things like that. But Google is still the
No,
behemoth.
it's the big dog. Yeah,
You
absolutely.
talk
And
about
as
doing
is
a
YouTube.
search, people talk about go ahead and Google it. It's become a verb
Sure,
in
sure. Right.
the language around the world. You
Like
know,
Kleenex, right?
right?
Kleenex, or it used to be Xerox. Go make a Xerox because you don't do that anymore. But yeah, Google is the buzz term. Let's talk about. Let's see, what else did you write here? Oh, this is interesting. And I saw a clip on TV, and I couldn't believe it. Apparently, there's more than a couple of people upset in Britain about illegal immigration and migrants that have flooded over the years, not just the UK, but the European Union. And I don't know if it was Cameron or who was Cameron's predecessor. Oh gosh, Majors,
Oh,
who said that open borders was an abject failure. It ruined their country having open borders, and they tried to. But I mean, the damage is done. So I'm watching it. People are going crazy over there rioting. First, I saw a Muslim riot, and then I saw regular Brits rioting against the immigrant riots. So what is happening over there, Jez?
yeah, they're upset about the same things we're upset about in large part with all the illegal immigration. But it really spiked up this summer, I think, because of the last British elections. They got a new prime minister, and I'm not even going to dredge up his name right now. The old prime minister had actually been promising that he was going to block the rubber rafts and boats coming across the channel they were using
Hmm.
to illegally get into Britain, and he had already been organizing deportations to get started. And the new prime minister came in and he canceled all that,
Wow.
and he pulled back the naval forces that were supposedly being assigned to go block the migrants, and he canceled a bunch of the deportations until there can be hearings and investigations and vetting and all that stuff. Whereas the old guy was just like, nope, get him out. And once the people heard that, that seemed to coincide within a week. People who had just been protesting with signs started going nuts, and we shouldn't give them a pass. Some of them were going when the police came to try to break them up and started arresting people. They started attacking the police. Some of the police were injured. Yeah, it's gotten totally out of control.
I don't know if you saw on social media outlets, but there was one story about three different people in Great Britain. One was arrested and sentenced to, I think, 6 months in jail for hate speech on Facebook.
Yep.
Another one was arrested and sentenced to I don't know what it was, 18 months in jail for something else that he did. But the third one was an illegal immigrant, I guess, Muslim, who was convicted of repeatedly raping a girl and was given 18 months of community service. And like, This hardly seems like justice. I don't know what's going on over there.
Well, we get too much of that over here, and it's not always just illegal immigrants. I mean, how
Yeah,
much you're
sure.
punished for crime depends on what crime you're committing and who the victim is. You know, so I mean, you can get 5 years for praying in front of an abortion clinic, but particularly in Minnesota, you can get off with like 6 months uh, probation. For physically attacking someone. You know.
Well, again, you look at Minnesota. Riots, people were killed, violence, stores destroyed, looted. It was days before the National Guard got the serious call to come out and quelch the violence. And I guess that's the governor's decision, right? That's Tim Walz that makes that call.
Yeah, that was all
Um,
Walls. And
Craziness.
his whole handling, just on top of that, of the lockdowns during the pandemic, you can go back and everybody was calling. Well, not everybody. Most states were calling at least some level of lockdowns. But he was one of the only people who actually installed a hotline for people to call and snitch on their neighbors if they saw them going outside. You know.
Wow.
And I think that's going to be coming up during the debates and a whole bunch of stuff.
In a few weeks, I'm gonna have a friend on who was born and raised in Venezuela, because I wanted to tell the story, his version of it. When he was a young man, they had basically a lockdown in Venezuela, and there was only certain times of the day that you could leave your house. And one of the times he remembers this just like it happened yesterday. One of the times they were all in their apartment, and I guess it was like second floor looking down, and somebody across the street had left the building, and they had snipers on rooftops, and they shot and killed the person. No questions asked, just shot and killed him, and left the body in the streets for like 3 days to set an example. And
Wow.
people who grew up in those communist Poland, you know, East West, when that was still Germany, Russia, China, Venezuela, different places, they have a keen sensory awareness of socialism, Marxism, communism sneaking into our culture. And I've heard it time and time again from these folks that they are very concerned. Cubans, very concerned about what's going on in America under the guise of democracy and freedom, which is really just repackaged communism, Marxism sneaking into our culture. Maybe not sneaking anymore, maybe just bold-facedly walking through. But we're gonna have him on in a couple weeks, I think.
There's a
Um,
reason that conservatives are doing so much better with the Hispanic vote in Florida, because they've got a big uh, Cuban community down
mhm.
there, and they know, even if they didn't personally come, their parents came, their relatives came. They've heard all the stories, you know, and they're not here because it was great in Cuba, you know.
Right. Right. Or Venezuela, or of course now
Right.
we have probably more Venezuelans in the United States than they do in Venezuela at this point,
Yeah.
having having emptied out their prison. All right, last one, Jazz. Terror watch list. Alarming number of people that have come in to the country. I mean, in general, we don't know number, 15 million, 20 million, since the Harris Biden administration. But the number of illegals that were on the terror watch list is frightening. What did you find out about that?
Yeah. They've tried to keep it quiet, in my opinion, because nobody's done a good job of getting that information out until the House subcommittee that's looking into that finally released this report. You heard about a few here and there. Oh, they picked up these people. They turned out to be on the terror watch list. Maybe they deported some of them. But no, the number's in the hundreds of people that have shown up that are on the terror watch list. And the number is right around 100 that were not only found to be on the terror watch list, but they were still pardoned into the country and released, and they're out there walking around. It's not a few. It's not a couple dozen. It's like a hundred that
Hundreds.
we know of. And
And
as the
and
committee
who about all the
reminded us,
gotaways that we don't know of,
yeah, how
right?
many of them? How many of the gotaways are on the terror watch list?
And think
We have
about it. Think
we have
about it.
no
What
idea.
a couple of handfuls of people pulled off 9/11.
Yeah,
and now we're talking hundreds here in the United States. I tell you, it's concerning, and sometimes I can't even think about it because I can only imagine what damage could be done and the violence that could result in it. So we're praying for the right people to win office. We're praying for protection over the country, for people who serve in the military. We pray for them every day, and I mean,
And
it
for
could get
anybody
ugly.
who's still wavering, I want you to remember there is no such thing as parole in place. The Biden administration made that up out of whole cloth.
Mm-hmm.
It's not legal. It's what they've been doing is in violation of existing federal immigration laws, and they've just been ignoring those laws and making stuff up as they go along,
Yeah,
and just doing what they want to get as many people in as possible. It
crazy.
should not be allowed.
Yeah, well, on that note, we're going to close. Welcome back. Great to have you back again. I hope things are going well. And thank you. Thank you, Jess, as always.
Thank you for having me. And everybody, like I try to say every week, stay safe out there.
Okay. Thank you, my friend. Jazz Shaw, everybody. All right. That's a wrap for us. Great show today. Thank you, DA. Thank you, AT. If you're watching on any platform, please like and share. If you're on our YouTube audience is growing, but we want more. If you happen to be watching on YouTube right now, whether it's live or later in the day, and you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. If you're on Rumble, please follow. If you're on Spotify, please follow. Thanks for everybody on Facebook, everybody on X. No matter how you're watching the show, we're so grateful to have you. And we'll have a great show for you tomorrow, I believe. And enjoy your day. God bless you. I love you. See you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock.